blessing to welcome Amish Tripathi ji, who is the best-selling author. He is also the director of the Nehru Centre in London. Amish ji is a diplomat. As I mentioned, he's an author, he's a columnist, and he's taken over as the director of the Nehru Centre in London in October. He is listed amongst the 50 most powerful Indians by the India Today magazine in 2019. Forbes India has regularly ranked Amish ji among the top 100 most influential celebrities in India. Amish ji was selected as an Eisenhower Fellow, a prestigious American program for outstanding leaders from around the world in 2014. Amish ji published his first book in 2010. And the beautiful thing is he was a banker, and then he decided to follow his passion. And he published his book in 2010, the first book, and has now written 7 books till date. His books have sold 5 million copies and have been translated into 10 Indian and 9 international languages. Amish ji is an alumnus of the prestigious Indian Institute of Management, Kolkata. He worked for 14 years in the financial services industry before turning to writing. And there's a beautiful honor and privilege to welcome Amish ji, who by just love to share also when we had the 2013 floods, Amish ji, you had donated to Project Hope. And that was the first time I heard your name. And I found out what a beautiful, beautiful inspiration you are to so many across India and around the world. And it's so wonderful to be joined again today and to have you with us to share your story, to share your tips, and to share your journey with the youth of India and the world. Amish ji.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me. It was a little embarrassing to hear of the donation I had made, at least what I don't like to speak of it, but thank you so much for acknowledging that. I was asked to speak of my journey and how, youth can draw inspiration from that. And I feel a little embarrassed seeing the quality of the panel here, brilliant leaders like Poonam, who are certainly the future of this country. Rubal, who's doing such wonderful work in Mumbai. So I'm frankly a little embarrassed being in such an esteemed panel. Let me speak of, briefly of what my journey is and what I think in some ways, perhaps some lessons can be drawn for the youth. I don't think I'm an inspiration, but look, what is my journey like? I was a banker for 14 years and I come from a middle class family. My career decisions were completely driven by pragmatism. Because I was very interested in history. I was a voracious reader. I was the singer of our band in I Am Calcutta. But as any kid would be told in the 1990s, कि वो सब ठीक है बेटा, काम क्या करोगे? So I did the pragmatic thing, did an MBA and joined banking. And writing is something which just kind of grabbed hold of my soul. I'll tell you briefly about, that I actually wrote my first 2 books along with my job. I resigned only after my second book. And my attachment to our culture also comes from my family. My grandfather was a Pandit in Kashi and a teacher at BHU. My grandfather from my father's side. And my grandmother from my mother's side was also a teacher in Gwalior. And both of them have truly influenced our family a great deal. We are a very traditional family stuck in our roots, but in the traditional Indian way, the more you are attached to your traditions, the more liberal you will be. It comes automatically if you truly read our scriptures. So if I've given you a brief, let me tell you what are the lessons perhaps that can be drawn from I think the first lesson is, you must pursue your heart, right? Let your heart decide the destination, but let your mind plot the journey. Don't jump without thinking. Because if you jump without thinking, then often something that is a dream for you, something that is a source of happiness can turn into a nightmare, right? Imagine if, I'd got the idea for my book around 2005, 2010, and I was in banking. Jobs don't get more boring than banking. There's a reason they call it compensation, the money that they pay you, because they screw your mind through the month and then compensate you with a salary at the end of the month. And the compensation is usually good, so you tolerate it for the next month, right? So it could have been very easy for me to say, "Yaar, the hell with this, I'll go kick my boss and jump into writing." And what if my books hadn't been, it took me some 5 years to write my first book. What if my books hadn't made money, right? Where would I pay the bills from? Could I tell my wife, and my kid was born in 2009, would I tell them to starve because, daddy is discovering himself? And that's silly, right? So the fact that I wrote my first two books along with my job and I resigned only after my royalty check became more than my salary meant I didn't turn my dream into a nightmare. So that's the first thought I want to leave with you. Let your heart decide the destination, but use your mind to plot the journey. Don't jump without thinking. Don't compromise your heart as well, because by the time then you're 70, 75, the things that you'll truly regret are the things that you didn't even attempt, not what you tried and failed at. Right? So listen to your heart, but listen to your mind as well. That's perhaps the first thought. The second thought, be who you are, man. In today's world, trying to be something that you aren't, uh, especially with social media, with people tracking all the time, you'll get caught out here sometime. Okay? Be who you are. Some will like it, some will not like it. That's cool. Yeah? That's the way the world is. I mean, no one is liked by everyone. Right? So I am, for example, I'm very deeply attached to our traditions and our culture. Right? But yes, because of and my parents spoke in the Hindi medium. They were educated in the Hindi medium. But the four of us siblings were sent to schools that was beyond my parents' income and social class levels, and that meant that we are exposed to the Western way as well. So I have a bit of that, but at my core, I'm deeply Indian. I don't hide that. I wear it. I wear it on my sleeve, and I've realized that I'm living in the West now. I'm living in London. That even non-Indians, I think they like people who are authentic. I find so many people, who will come here and say, don't call me Mukesh, call me Mike, because I'm cool types. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's light either, right? So if you've genuinely given up your Indian roots and you're genuinely, Western, yeah, then that's your choice. But my suggestion is be who you are and realize that some people will like it, some people will not like it. That is completely okay, right? And the third and the last thing, if you can do, it's the Indian tradition on charity, which I would just like to suggest you. And it's there, you find it in all our communities, right? So, for example, in the Mahabharata, Lord Vidur had said that there are two ways to waste money. One is by giving charity to the unworthy, and the second by not giving charity to the worthy, right? So if you're, for example, if you're on the road and you see someone and you look like, yeah, they've had drugs, you know and you give them money because it makes you feel better, you know exactly where the money will go, right? Is that the right thing to do? You think you're doing charity, but actually you're harming that person. What would be better? Spend time and effort, find some food, give them food. If you can find some way to help them to build their lives, then you're actually helping, right? Rather than just making yourself feel better and just giving some money. It comes from the Hindu traditions, Jain traditions on charity. You see the Indian Islamic traditions of zakat. It is a tradition in all Indian communities, and one of the things that comes deeply in the Indian way, the money must be put to good use. Your task doesn't end by just giving some money. So find people who are good, so then you can just give the money and leave it to them. But if you're not sure, invest your time as well. Make sure people actually benefit from it. That's the only way then the good karma will come back to you as well, right? Speaking selfishly, right? So that is the law of cause and effect, right? You want your charity to actually have a positive impact. These are the three thoughts I want to leave. I thought I'll keep my remarks brief because I'm interfering in another panel. And thank you so much, Nandini ji, for accommodating me. Everyone, I'm so sorry that I have to, it's a really busy day. I have to go into another program. And Poonam, pleasure seeing you. Yeah. And Rubal, pleasure meeting you, and hope to see you in Mumbai sometime. And everyone else on the panel, thank you so much for for having me and for hosting me.